talked a lot about Cowboys Dolphins, but I wanted to go through a couple of different aspects that have me feeling very confident in the Cowboys' ability to bounce back against the Dolphins. Because as we've established, I am very concerned about the Cowboys' ability to beat a quality team on the road.
Okay.
However, there's a lot of positive stuff happening with this team in the month of December and after losses.
Okay.
All right. Since 2021, the Cowboys are 12-1 following a loss.
Okay.
That's the best record in the NFL during that span. And in the last 2 seasons, they're 8-0 following a loss.
Okay.
And so
it seems pretty good.
That seems very good,
Yeah.
right? So overall, the team has very much excelled in scenarios just like this. What about the head coach? Let's go to the head coach. Since Mike McCarthy arrived in Dallas, the Cowboys are 12-3 in the month of December. That winning percentage of .800, third best in the NFL in that span, behind only Buffalo and Green Bay. So it makes sense that you lost that Buffalo game.
Yeah.
You lost to the best December team.
Okay.
You're only the third best December team. All right, so another positive for the head coach.
Did you play Green Bay last year in December, or was that November?
You would have lost that game because that was when Green Bay was in the midst of their December winning streak that has now been snapped.
Gotcha. Okay.
But and you might be like, hey, team, it's great. Coach, it's great. What about the players? All right, let's talk about Dak Prescott.
Is he good?
He's played 27 games in December. If you just had to guess, what do you think his record is in December? He's played 27 games in December.
22-5.
Woo! Not that good.
Okay.
But close.
19 and whatever it takes
8.
to get to that number.
He's 20-7. Now, here's the interesting thing about that is that's the 4th most wins by any quarterback in December since he was drafted. He's only 1 win behind Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, and Patrick Mahomes. Now, I realize that's a weird group because Tom Brady is retired, Aaron Rodgers hasn't played this year, and then Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL.
Says you.
Fair enough. Says me. Is if Dak wins on Sunday, he has the potential to tie all of those quarterbacks for the most December wins in that span. And so I realize history, that's all history stuff. Like that's not necessarily a trend directly going into this game, but it is a December trend that this Cowboys team, their head coach, and their quarterback have all been nails down the stretch for this team.
Yeah, no, and I do know last year against Washington at the end of the year, you're like, what? Why? We lost to Sam Howell?
This is a January game. We
Oh,
didn't care in January.
that's right. And I know they played Tennessee, and they beat Tennessee, but they didn't do it in a decisive way.
Right.
But guess what? That was against Josh Dobbs. We're just not good against Josh Dobbs. It's just the way it is.
We are not good.
So, like, if
Josh
the Vikings make it to the playoffs and they have to play the Cowboys, just start Josh Dobbs.
By the way, have you seen the weird argument that's broken out between Cowboys and Eagles fans about who should be more embarrassed, losing to Josh Dobbs or Drew Lock?
Oh, that is a... Yeah, that is a weird combination. Look, the Josh Dobbs one, it could happen at that happened early in the season.
Hey,
losing to Drew Lock is in the middle of a 4-game losing streak, bro.
Don't lose sight of what's happened since then. There was like a 3-week period where Josh Dobbs was taking over the NFL, all right? I don't know what happened before then or after then that really threw that off track. But for those 3 weeks, whoo, it was something. All right, so I'm confident because of all of those reasons. Because it's only fair, Corey. If I'm going to go back through the rest of the season and be like, hey, they've lost to this team on the road, lost to that team on the road, I have to take a look at other key December performances.
Yeah. I do question, though, Kevin, if they lost, if let's say they won to the Dolphins on the road,
yep,
lost to the Lions at home, does that change your opinion about things?
The reason
that breaks everything that you're in right now.
It kind of does.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. Because first of all, you killed off their invincibility at home.
Yep.
but probably more importantly, you no longer will win the number 2 seed. And because you'd be third, right? Like even if you won your division, best case scenario, you'd be third. And guess where that would leave you? That would leave you theoretically going on the road to Detroit in the second round. And yes, I will admit, I'm looking past the first round of the playoffs in a variety of circumstances. We'll focus more on that when we get there. But one of the reasons is because there's a lot of people out there is like, if you don't go to the NFC Championship game or win the Super Bowl or whatever, this season was a failure. So if you're just looking at the second round, which you have to get past for this season not to be a failure to a lot of people, you would probably go on the road to Detroit. And if you lost at home against Detroit, well, you know how I feel about that. So you're right. Even though that does put you in, you've won your last 2 road games, because I'm just assuming you beat Washington. Sure.
And then lost 1 at home, so you flipped it. Now you're good on the road in the last part, and most recently.
That is true, but I have to tell you.
If it happens, again.
If it happens. If you can win the Dolphins game, I think you're going to win the last 2.
No, I won't talk about the playoffs until the playoffs start. Deal? I'm going to talk about the regular season through the regular season. Deal with it.
Okay. I have to deal with that too?
Yes.
Okay. If you beat the Dolphins, I think you're going to win against Detroit. And I think there's going to be something on the line in the game against Washington. And Washington is trying to protect their draft picks. So you're going to win that game as well. And so then you would be 13-4. Then you would have a real shot at the number 2 seed. And I think you're going to go to the NFC Championship game. Obviously, if you want to go back through recent Cowboys history, well, you can take all kinds of assumptions, and that doesn't necessarily work out super well for you. Also, I did see somebody else throw this out there, and I don't know that is supposed to be like the burn that you would think from the 817. Yeah, because y'all play the NFC least every December as of late. I don't know if you've been watching football or not.
Oh, no.
But last year, the NFC East was the best division in football. Last year, you played the Philadelphia Eagles in December, and you beat them. And, turned out pretty well for the Philadelphia
Eagles. I think didn't you sweep the Giants last year, too? Not in December, but I think you did sweep them.
Yes.
And they were a playoff team as well.
And so,
although maybe they didn't deserve it late in the season.
Well, hey, but that's how you knew that division was best. And that's a Philadelphia team that made it to the Super Bowl. So you can't, look, there was absolutely a place and time where you could burn the NFC East every day and twice on Sunday. But it ain't been the last 2 years. Like, you have 2 of the best 3 teams in the NFC or in the NFC East. I realize the Eagles are spiraling right now, but at worst, 2 of the best 4. Last year, you had the best division in football. It's not because they play just a string of unending weak teams in December. And even if they did, that's still a huge deal being able to win in December. It just is.
I think, when you're talking about some things that kind of give you promise for this stretch that they're about to go through, is they are a good team. They wouldn't be 10-4 if they were a bad team. That's just where they are right now. Now, versus other good teams, you'd love to see a better record. You'd absolutely love that. And I don't know, Kevin, they beat Miami, they beat Detroit.
Yep.
What's their record against good teams then at that point? Is it like 3-2?
Or 2-3?
2-3, something like that. So,
well, that depends on if you think Seattle's a good team, but 2-3, 3-3, maybe something along those lines.
The Cowboys are a good football team.
Yeah.
And like, that's a reality that you can get all upset about, or you can just say, you know what, that is true. And that's why these 2 games here in December, I'm looking at them positively. They're a good team going up against another good team. Now, the thing is, what I always loved about Rick Carlisle in 2011 was whenever they had those opportunities, Rick Carlisle would say this line, and I loved it. And it's a great challenge, but we look forward to the challenge. We look forward to the opportunity. Mike McCarthy's been saying this weekly, and I don't know that his team heard it last week, but this is football where everybody is playing for something right now. The Bills were playing for something. You have a good opportunity against really good teams to establish who you are and what your identity is. And I feel like they need to have a couple of those moments where they say, we want to go out there and prove it, not just to us, but to everybody else.
Okay, then...
Or maybe even just to themselves.
Probably. I could see that. Then here's what you need to do. Let's talk about this game specifically. Is the Dolphins they do have a quality defense. They
did not last year. They trade for Jalen Ramsey, which was a brilliant move. And they have been better in their pass rush. Losing Jalen Phillips stinks, but Andrew Van Ginkel has really come alive for them.
And so I know the offense gets most of the attention, but they do have a quality defense. The magic number appears to be 20 points. When Miami is giving up 20 points or less this season, they're 8-0. When Miami is giving up 20 points or more, they're 2-4.
Okay.
What's particularly interesting about that is these are the two highest scoring teams in the NFL. So theoretically,
should be a 48 to 48 game.
Yes. And theoretically, you would, I think, feel good about being in a shootout because you were in a shootout against Seattle and you came out on top of that. I mean, I know obviously a lot of Cowboys games this year, both positive and negative, have not been particularly competitive.
Yeah.
But the shootout you did get into, you won. And Miami has been poor in shootouts this year. So I will tell you, I keep thinking about what Mickey said earlier in the week about deferring the toss, which is usually the way you go. But this is a Cowboys team that is uniquely different in terms of their ability to jump on top of teams and continue to hold a lead throughout the game. I hope if they lose the coin toss, Miami defers. And if they win the coin toss, they take the ball first. I know that is not usually how it's been done over the years, but obviously this is a different Cowboys team this year. I hope they get the ball first, and obviously that first drive will be key. If they can start piling up the points, you've seen what happens to Miami's defense in these instances. Or you've seen that their offense can't keep up with their defense in these instances.
Yeah, and somebody asked, can Miami do what the Bills did defensively? I mean, if you're going to drop 7 and force the Cowboys to play underneath, yes, they can do that. I mean, they have a really good, Jalen Ramsey's really good. They have a good front four. They'll make it uncomfortable for Dak if they do that. That's essentially what they did. Can the Cowboys adjust is what the bigger question. Do they have a plan for it? Because that was Kellen Moore's downfall, was whenever teams did this to him and Dak, they didn't have another plan. Mike McCarthy has talked about evolving throughout each trimester, Kevin. So trimester 1, we added this. Trimester 2, we added this. Each team is going to find out something looking back at your film along the way that they like. How do you adjust and then counterbalance that whenever they try to take away what you're good at?
And I have to admit, I would be alarmed if relatively similar defensive game plans were rolled out and we didn't have an adjustment ready this go around. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That would be really concerning.
Panic.
We're the KNC Masterpiece. Yes, I would panic.
I'd panic.